Welcome to the Superhero Sidekick Leadership Coaching Podcast with Joel Smith and Joe Baker. We're here to help you develop your superpowers. This is the Superhero Sidekick Coaching Podcast. I'm Joel Smith.
I'm Joe Baker. We're not here to be the superhero. We just want to be your sidekick and help you along in building your business, building your not-for-profit. Let's help you grow it fast and really scale.
Be sure to check us out on Facebook and visit us at superherosidekick.com. This is the Superhero Sidekick Coaching Podcast. I am Joel Smith. My partner, Joe Baker, is, he's probably climbing a mountain or, I don't know, swimming in caves or with snakes, something like that. He's kind of an adventure freak. So I am running this solo, but I do have two terrific guests with me today. These are guys that I've had the pleasure of speaking to on a radio program a couple other times. They've been on the Truth Business Network radio program. And you're going to like these guys. These guys, first of all, if you could see them, they're really fit. You know, David looks like he's a cage fighter, and Joe looks like, you know, the Incredible Hulk. So just physically, these guys are really in shape. They kind of, I look up to them. I'm trying to catch up a little bit. Been doing pretty well here recently. But hey, these guys, we got David Bush on the program and Joe Tewell, and these guys are authors. And well, they're more than authors, but the book "Fit for the King" is this is a great book. I've read this book a couple of times now, and I am fascinated by the different take that these guys bring to fitness and to the kingdom. So, David and Joe, welcome. David, how are you doing?
I'm great. I've never been compared to a cage fighter, but probably in preparation for trying to bring a body stewardship message to a church that largely doesn't want to hear about it, I probably should be. I feel like I'm in a cage fight sometimes.
Yeah. So tell us about, Fit for the King. I know you've had this book's been out for a few years now, right?
Yeah, about 5 years.
5 years.
I come out of the business world into the ministry world as a pastor and a worship leader and a Christian artist, and felt compelled to probably along the lines of a lot of what you are coaching people to do, is to find a place where their passions and their life experience kind of merge, and to focus their energies on there for a purpose of making a real difference. And in my life, I wanted to make a difference in the place that had been very formative in my experience, which was the church. And when I looked at the combined influences of my life and experiences and passions and expertise, it led me to a somewhat entrepreneurial and unique area of ministry to the church, and that is to focus on this area of biblical body stewardship. Those who know anything about church, or whether they're looking from the outside in or are part of that, are probably aware it's not a place you go for health advice or to find, exceptionally healthy people. Statistics tell us that the church is actually more unhealthy and obese than an unhealthy and obese culture at large. So that's been the theater in which I have been engaged, oftentimes with Joe over the last 10 years or so, trying to bring a biblically foundational message of body stewardship to a church that has not heard many messages about that, but is basically going with the flow of culture one way or the other, and has not integrated their faith and their fitness to any real extent. Well, so that was the start.
Yeah, I love that term, biblical Bible stewardship. I love that.
Body stewardship.
Yeah. Biblical body stewardship. Yeah. So, I love that, because that's not when we talk about stewardship in the church, that's not what we talk about. The first thing that we talk about in the church with stewardship is we talk about money, right? And sometimes we talk about time and gifts, but really the health part of it isn't talked about, right? So I think you're right. I think you're really onto something here, in the sense that we're missing something in the church. We're just missing this element. And I think part of the reason why the church is missing this is because we don't understand it very well. We don't understand that it's not something to look good. It's not just something to feel good. That this is something that your book would say is it's an act of worship. So can you expand on that a little bit? Just tell us really. Let's peel the onion back and give us a better idea of what this fit for the king, idea is all about.
Sure. And some of this will get to be one of the critical issues that we talk about is the motivation. Why are you going to do what you're going to do? And the world, our secular culture, basically can only offer us, I want to feel better or I want to look good. Those are the two major impetuses, and Joe would probably affirm that most of the people walking, across his transom on a daily basis are wanting to feel better and look good. And it's probably an extrinsic motivation. It may be put on them. They don't think they're matching expectations. Somebody has told them they need to lose weight. A doctor has given them a bad report card. Something needs to be done. And they may not own it personally, but they feel they should do something. And so they're reaching out to try to change things. And these are the kinds of things that are extrinsic. They're not necessarily owned by us. And we talk about trying to let common grace, wisdom, and intrinsic motives be a bigger part of that picture. And while looking good and feeling better will happen as a result of being a better steward, this really is more about, productivity. But it's also about understanding that we don't own our bodies, God does, and He's in charge of those, and we don't get to say what's what in regard to that. So we are a steward of that, just like we are with our finances and with the kids He gives us and with the business opportunities and intellect He gives us, the time. We're stewards of all these things. We're not the actual owners, but we're to steward them for the best benefit of the one who actually owns them. And God created us, and He has a plan for us, and He has purposes for us. And our health oftentimes becomes the gatekeeper that inhibits or prohibits us from actually doing the things or being productive the way He wants us to be, because our health fails us because we haven't given any time or attention to that, or we've just kind of done it the world's way, and gotten off track and maybe become obsessed about it and become unbalanced in that regard, which certainly can happen.
Sure.
So we're talking about focusing on availability, an availability first to love God with everything that we are and accomplish everything He wants to do, and through our fitness, allow Him to love others through us, which is the great commandment that we're all supposed to be about. We're supposed to not only love God with our heart, soul, mind, and strength, our physical capacity, but we're to also be able to love others as we love ourselves. And most of us can agree that oftentimes has a physiological component to it. We don't oftentimes love others, whether it's our wife, our kids, or our neighbors, very well from our Barca lounger. That has a physiological engagement factor to it. That means we have to be ready and available to engage them at their point of need, and that takes vitality, energy, availability to do that. And too often than not, we're content to, sit in our loungers and have a good quiet time. And sometimes God is asking us to actually apply what we know and have learned and engage in good works for the sake of the kingdom of God and His glory. And we're not in a good position to do that too often. So we're trying to help people, me largely in the motivational theological end, to get that squared away about why a Christian would care about these things. And Joe, more weight would be given toward the very practical end of how do you pursue healthy living and moving and the ability to engage physiologically with where it's needed in a world gone crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting the way that you guys are completely different. You guys are so different in so many different ways, but you have a common bond and a common mission that you guys are on, and you mentioned it, David, your book is so theologically sound. That's one thing I've been impressed by that. And I know that's how you think. I know you're a thinker, you're a cranial kind of guy, and you put a lot of thought into this. And I really love that part. But Joe, you bring a whole different angle to this book and to your mission. I know you're a passionate guy, and I know you're very, very skilled in what you do. You know the ins and outs of the body and health and nutrition and all that. But I'm always moved by your passion whenever I get to talk to you, Joe. So I'd love to hear just how did you get involved with David, and when did you guys? How long have you known each other, and what's your part in all of this?
Well, you couldn't have hit the nail any better or any more perfectly on the head than you just did with that hammer, because we are absolutely different, 180 degrees. And but David and I have been friends since 2004. And just for some of the backstory for listeners to know my situation. My situation is that I come from a very addictive lifestyle. I come from a home that was broken, a home that was full of addicts, a home that Jesus became, a part of my home every time somebody would face sobriety or they would get out of prison. That was the home that I was brought up in. And not that I didn't have parental love, but I was in an environment that really molded me into who I am today. And more so now than ever, do I have clarity in God's purpose for me because of my past. And it's given me a totally different perspective on what health is and what the bar should be. Because really being healthy, as I tell people, my clients, is that your body is a reflection of your habits and your mindset. It's not the diet you're on. It's not the workout program or the boot camp or the swimming that you do. This is a reflection directly of the way you think and the way you live. And those are the things that really need to be put in order. And so in 2004, I gave my life to Christ because I was literally at a point where I didn't even really believe I could go on personally. Just the weight of life was at a point where I couldn't take another step. And what's crazy about that, I was really in the peak of my career, and I've had a really, really long and a very successful career in the fitness industry. I mean, from management to ownership to training professional athletes. I've really done everything in this industry you can do. I've seen it all. But in the midst of all of that, probably at my peak financially and in ownerships, having a club, getting ready to open up a new one, I was as broken as I could be. And that's really where David came into play. I was introduced to David. He was a member of my gym. And I really liked David, although I really kind of kept my distance because I was one of those people that felt like when I was around David, I had to be a different person. I needed to clean up my act, so to speak. But anyway, David became a resource that I know that God put into my life intentionally and for a reason. And I gave my life to Christ at a park bench in Pleasant Hill, Iowa, with David at my side for 4 hours. And through that, he and I became connected. And he agreed to be a mentor to me. And we met every Wednesday at Drake Diner and had eggs and oatmeal. And the thing that was really cool about David is he was a pastor. I love his music. I mean, he doesn't talk enough about his music. His music really did a lot for me personally. And he loved fitness. He and we just connected because, I mean, I crave fitness. I love it. And I can't be challenged enough. That's just been my life. Love training as much as I can. And David loved it as well. And then we just shared that. bond right there. That just built a friendship. I mean, we became brothers, not just in Christ, but we believed a lot of the same things. And literally one day I just said to him, just really crazy, is man, David, I love the church. I love the church culture, but why is the church so overweight? And you know what? David could have just shrugged it off, or David could have just said, you know, Joe, I don't know. But it obviously is something that was already bothering him. It was something that he already thought, this isn't right. This isn't who we're created to be. And we weren't looking at people from a perspective of, wow, they don't look good in their Sunday clothes. We're talking about function. We're talking about attitudes. And are you approachable? Are you physically available? Do you represent a body that someone would look at and say, man, what's different? You know, this person has Christ, and there's something about their life that there's something that I want to know more about. Does your physiology match that? And we both decided that it was no, it doesn't. And you know, you look at the church bulletin every week, and he and I would talk about this, is that every week it's more prayer for Mary's hip replacement and George's diabetes, and my friend has cancer, and you know, all that stuff. Those are terrible things, and they absolutely need prayer. But it's every week. All we're doing in the church is praying for the people that are already in the building, and they are distracted from God's purpose because of their own situations that they have created. And we just acknowledge that. We both said, you know what, this is something we're passionate about. David really started writing the book. And we just really felt this is something that needs to be talked about, that needs to be shared. And we felt like it's something that needed to be implemented into the church. Because God's people, we're called to a different level, Joel. We're to go out and disciple. We are to worship, and that is absolutely it's a verb. It requires availability. It is a physical component to faith. And as the years have gone by, I've seen less and less availability physiologically from the church.
Yeah.
Other than our missionaries are out doing the work. Why should I need to worry about it? I give money, and you know, those are great things, but we are not stepping up. And you look at a lot of the great men in the Bible, my goodness, God took them from their brokenness and their inability and gave them faith and mandated that they live beyond themselves for a greater purpose, for his purpose. Do it in faith. But they were put through physical hardships. And I mean, David and I do workshops, and we talk a lot about Caleb. And I didn't really think much about Caleb until David started talking about Caleb's story and what he went through. And he became somebody I look at as, wow, that guy, that's amazing. That's who I want to be, Caleb, to be that faithful and keep my body at its best, because God is going to provide an opportunity for me to share my faith and to glorify him by using the faithfulness of the way I've been living and my physical elements of my life.
Yeah, this is all great stuff from both of you guys. I love this, and I hear what you're saying about the church. I had a similar experience, a little bit different, but I got saved when I was 23 years old, and from the very beginning, I was sharing my faith with a lot of people. I realized really early on I had a gift of evangelism, and going to church. I would go to church, and I couldn't understand why so many people in the church have never shared their faith with anyone. Why are they just coming and going through the motion? And I think what you were just saying, Joe, and what you were talking about, David, is that the church needs to be awakened. It needs to be awakened to balanced stewardship all over the place. It's really difficult to have the confidence to share your faith when you aren't confident in yourself because you're not disciplined with your learning, with your health, with your body. You know, all of this fits together, and it's really hard for us to look at ourselves and see ourselves through the eyes of God when we're not seeing ourselves that way. When we're something less than in our mind, and that when we keep failing ourselves over and over and over. And I think what you guys are saying is we need to bring the power of the Holy Spirit into the church that empowers all parts of us, every part of us. And that's what I love about you, the message that you guys bring is you guys are just bringing the message that is probably most overlooked. You know, and it really does affect every part of us. I think about this, Joe. I know you and I did a radio program a few weeks ago, and I was sharing a little bit how I'm doing pretty well right now physically. I'm working out. I'm running about 15 miles a week, which is, you know, pretty good for me, and I'm getting there. And you know, I'm finding other great attributes that come to this. Like I can read at night now because I'm not tired like I was. I'm not hungry like I was. So I'm not just like going to the fridge and you know, and my stress is better because I just feel calm and relieved, and my confidence is up. There's just so many other things that really go along with this that are overlooked. And so I don't know if you guys want to talk a little bit about that. Just there's a serious overflow effect that really affects us all.
Well, you touched on something there as far as sharing. And, you know, this in our context, we're talking right now about people sharing their faith, but it could be somebody in business, you know, sharing the features and benefits of the product they're trying to sell, or the person who's got to get up in front of their peer group and give their, you know, PowerPoint presentation that they're required to do as part of their job, and wondering why they get passed over, you know, at work for the promotion, et cetera. So there's other permutations of this. But speaking about specifically a Christian sharing their faith, there could be a lot of reasons why somebody doesn't do that. And it may be that they think that getting to heaven was God's goal for their life. You know, I've become a Christian. That's good for me. I've achieved God's goal, and that was to get me to heaven. And, you know, what else is there left to do? Well, we talk about how that couldn't be further from the truth, that heaven is a wonderful benefit and not the goal of the Christian life. But in my coaching that I do with people, we get to a section that talks about ambassadorship. And this is where some of these principles kind of come into play, is this confidence in sharing as an ambassador. He doesn't say it's an opt-into thing. He doesn't say, do you want to be the kind of Christian who's an ambassador for Jesus? Or by extension, are you the kind of an ambassador who is going to actually represent your company or not? Check the box. No, the fact is that we're ambassadors whether we want to check the box or not. We're called that, and we are that. The question is not are we, it's what kind of ambassador are you? And if somebody is an ambassador who feels like they've got to pull their punches because they understand somehow that they don't really represent things what they are selling, to put it in crude terms, what they're representing or selling, they don't represent that very well. That's a problem. And so while I want to acknowledge right up front that God has always and will continue to use imperfect ambassadors, and the company you work for will probably continue to have imperfect ambassadors for their product or services, that shouldn't be an excuse to say, well, then I won't change, that I will remain where I'm at, especially if it is hindering your confidence and ability to represent whatever you're representing with confidence. And for the Christian, essentially what they're doing anytime they would dare to share their faith would be saying, life is different with Jesus at the helm. I used to have these addictions. I used to be compelled and controlled by this and that, But when I gave my life to Christ, a new leader came in, and he has brought radical change to my life. He has brought change to my values. He's brought change to how I parent. He's brought change to my this, that, and the other thing. And the person that they're sharing with may have experienced many of those things, and they maybe can see, if they've known you long enough, wow, your language really changed, and I don't hear you talking down other people as much as you used to, and the overall scope of your life has become so much more balanced. You just used to be all about yourself, and now you actually seem to care about other people. There may be relationship that would allow for some of those compare and contrast to take place. That's not always the case, but one thing that will be inescapable as that person listens to the fact that Jesus changes everything, that he's in charge, and that there's nothing like following Jesus is, oh, really? Because there seems to be some imbalance in your life that you're not really willing to follow Jesus in, or does he clap you on the back and say that your death wish with your health is something he's just all about because he wants to see in heaven sooner than later? That is an issue, whether we want to approach that or discuss it or not. People do make discernments about you. Some people make judgments. I'm not talking about judgments because I can't judge anybody, but I can make discernments about people and their level of maturity or their ability to engage in things based on some of what I see with my own eyes. And if what is sitting before me is somebody who clearly has resisted transformation in a pretty basic area of their life, it would put questions into my mind about whether Jesus really does change everything. And
yeah, we really are a billboard, aren't we?
Yes, and again, I don't want to put too much emphasis on that because that makes it all about the physical and the
Right.
aesthetic, and that is only a part of the picture. And they may well know more than that about our lives. So this isn't the be all end all, but it is part of the package of a transformed life. And it's the part of the package that most Christians today have ignored. And it has hurt their ability to give a winsome testimony of transformation. And it has perhaps caused them to not want to even share about the most important thing in their life of all, because they don't feel confident, and they privately would tell you, I'm embarrassed about myself and what I've become and what I've let myself become. And so that kind of puts a governor on my sharing with people because I know I'm not where I should be, and it's visible and people can see that. And so God will continue to use all shapes, sizes, has and will. And what they don't see all my imperfections that are different, maybe different than the physiological imperfections. Some people might say, well, Dave, you clearly are unbalanced. You spend way too much time in the gym, and that's just reeks of imbalance. So I understand that could be the case too. But we don't want this to be a hurdle for people to have to get over. And we don't want to have internally it be a hurdle that we have to get over, and that causes us not to be bold ambassadors, which is our identity in Christ.
All right. Well, hey guys, thank you very much for being on the podcast today. I'm always inspired whenever I could spend some time with you guys. So, Joe, hey, can you tell our audience maybe where they can learn more about Fit for the King, or get a hold of you guys if they want to learn more or get engaged with you guys?
Well, actually, there's a lot of opportunities to get engaged with Fit for the King just through social media. David has some awesome posts, just every day, motivational posts, spiritual posts, practical posts about our body stewardship and how to apply that principle. You just go to www.fit4theking.net, and that's a great way to start. And if you're somebody listening that would want some coaching, David has a coaching program, as I do. We both coach in under the Fit for the King label, and David does a lot of one-on-one. I'm a person that does a lot more of the physiological wellness, lifestyle habits, the application of that. And then you going on to into Instagram or the Facebook, Fit for the King, like the page, and just get involved in that. And there's a lot of good information, from recipes to worship to practical ways to get wellness into your life from a biblical perspective.
All right. Sounds great. Hey, so thanks again, guys. So if you're interested in that, get a hold of these two guys. They will treat you well and guide you well. If you're interested in leadership or business coaching as well, I would love to help you. You can go to joelsmithcoach.com. If you are an organization, a nonprofit organization, you're looking for some help with fundraising or marketing, my partner Joe Baker would be glad to hear to help you with that. You can get a hold of him at superherosidekick.com. We would also love to see you on our Facebook group as well. So go at Superhero Sidekick on Facebook, and we'd love to hear your comments and love to have you subscribe, be a part of this, so you can get some updates. And but we really appreciate you all being with us today. Thanks, David. Thanks, Joe. And maybe we'll have you on the program again real soon. So thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks for having us.